Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we begin an epic journey through the life and legacy of the Lincoln penny, a coin so small in size yet so large in story that it has silently chronicled more than a century of American life. And when you hold one between your fingers, you are holding a living piece of history that links the fields of the 19th century to the skyscrapers of the 21st. Because the Lincoln cent is not merely currency, it is a symbol of remembrance, design, revolution, and the economic and social changes that shaped the United States from 1909 onward. And the tale begins with a decision that changed American coinage forever. In 1909, to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint placed the first real person on a regularly circulating American coin, breaking long-standing tradition of allegorical figures and instead honoring the man whose leadership preserved the Union, and this bold step was entrusted to sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose portrait, based on earlier medals and studies, captured Lincoln's gaunt dignity and thoughtful gaze, a portrait that instantly resonated with millions and made the penny both a popular keepsake and a controversial object because the designer's initials VDB were stamped prominently on the reverse between the two wheat ears, sparking an outcry that led to the removal of the initials from circulation strikes within weeks and creating the legendary 1909 SVDB penny, a coin that, in later decades, would become one of the most sought-after key dates for collectors. But the Lincoln cent story is not limited to that early controversy. It expands into design evolution, metal chemistry, mint operations, and socio-economic history, because the coin was originally struck in 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a rich red color that collectors today identify as red when untoned, and these early red wheat cents, 1909 to 1919 and later into the 1920s, remain prized for their original luster and crisp strikes, yet even within that early period we find the seeds of rarity. Mint marks that denote place of production, S for San Francisco, D for Denver, and none for Philadelphia, and the smallest production numbers from San Francisco in 1909 with the VDB initials created scarcity that drives value, while other early mintage oddities such as double dies, repunched mint marks, and varying die states create a rich taxonomy of varieties that specialists chase for decades, and the Lincoln penny would then become the longest continuously used coin design in U.S. history, surviving through the First World War, the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, a Second World War, the explosive post-war economy, and on into the digital age, all the while showing subtle technical adaptations. In 1917 and later, die polishing and hubbing changed letter sharpness. In the 1920s and 1930s, variations like the 1922 no D overdate and the 1931 S issues create small but significant typologies that serious collectors study, and the coin's reverse, two wheat ears framing United States of America and E pluribus unum with 1 cent beneath, stood for half a century as a humble emblem of agrarian America until the pressures of modern design called for a new symbol at mid-century, so in 1959. On the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and the 50th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself, the reverse was changed to Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial, a reflective image of the national monument in which the tiny seated figure of Lincoln can be seen in the center of the memorial under magnification. And oddly, this made the cent the first circulating American coin to depict the same person on both obverse and reverse simultaneously, creating a layered homage to Lincoln's memory while introducing the coin to a new generation in the post-war era of interstate highways and suburban growth. And across these decades, material economics began to exert greater influence on coin production. Copper prices fluctuated, manufacturing costs rose, and by World War II the mint had to consider material substitution and production efficiency in order to support the war effort. And in 1943 that pressure produced one of the most dramatic and visually shocking experiments in U.S. numismatics, the 1943 steel cent, struck on zinc-coated steel planchets to save copper for shell casings and other military uses, turning America's pennies from their familiar reddish-brown to a silver-gray appearance overnight, causing confusion at cash registers and among the public, and creating an iconic wartime rarity when a few 1943 planchets of the older bronze composition were mistakenly struck, producing 1943 bronze cents that today rank among the most valuable of Lincoln penny rarities, with authenticated examples selling for massive sums because they were unintended survivors of a frantic production year, and the steel cent itself introduced collecting challenges. Many were recycled, many corroded over time despite the zinc coating, and high-grade survivors in uncirculated condition are rare and prized for their crispness and original luster, while further complications such as oiling, toning, and storage environments affect survivability and market grades, and this interplay between metallurgy and history continued to shape the cent. Post-1945, the penny returned to bronze until rising metal costs again forced changes in the late 20th century, culminating in the dramatic 1982 composition switch from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc in response to surging copper prices, producing dual 1982 varieties, copper and zinc, that are a collector's field day because determining composition requires weight or XRF or visual inspection at the rim where the zinc core sometimes shows through. And within that single year, many subtypes such as small date/large date and specific mint mark placements create an entire subspecialty of. Collectors focused on 1982 anomalies, and the story of mint marks itself deserves attention because the presence or absence and the placement of mint marks like D and S across different years drastically impact scarcity. For example, the 1909 SVDB is scarce because of low San Francisco production and the subsequent removal of initials, while coin populations for certain years are affected by wartime production shifts and collectors' hoarding patterns, and when the U.S. Mint changed mint mark policy temporarily during certain periods, the resulting coins, or lack of mint marks, became clues to economic strategies and production priorities, and then there are the breathtaking die errors and varieties that turn ordinary cents into headline-grabbing sales. Doubled dies, where the hubbing process misaligns and letters or design elements appear doubled, repunched mint marks, showing a shadowed mint letter. Die cracks and die chips that produce raised metal areas or small blobs of metal, sometimes nicknamed by collectors, for example, Lincoln's ear, die cracks or extra leaf, like phenomena, off-center strikes that reveal a crescent blank on one side and a truncated portrait on the other, with extreme off-centers fetching high premiums based on the percent off-center, clipped planchets where the blank was improperly punched resulting in curved missing sections, and broad strikes where insufficient collar pressure causes the design to expand beyond normal diameter. Each of these mechanical accidents tells a unique story of mint machinery under stress and the human oversight that once governed the coining process. Beyond errors, the Lincoln penny is a field of famed key dates and registry battles. The 1909 SVDB of course anchors many collections, but other key dates like the 1914 D Lincoln cent with limited Denver mintage and the 1922 plain, no D, overdate varieties, the 1931 S scarcity in high grade, and certain low mintage 1958 D and transitional dates form the backbone of traditional Lincoln typesets. These key dates are the peaks collectors climb toward when assembling complete series, and their market values reflect condition scarcity as much as raw mintage numbers, because a high-grade example of a relatively common date can be far more valuable than a low-grade example of a traditionally key coin, and grading services like PCGS and NGC have further standardized the market by assigning numeric grades, MS for mint state, AU for about uncirculated, VF for very fine, etc., which impact collector behavior and auction dynamics, leading to elite specimens like MS66 or MS67 examples of key dates becoming investments as much as collectibles, housed behind glass and preserved in climate-controlled cabinets, and this drives demand for original rolls, mint sets, and proof sets where pristine examples may exist untouched since they left the mint. The Lincoln penny also shaped and was shaped by cultural moments. The memorial reverse introduced in 1959 coincided with a country reflecting on civil rights and national memory in ways that made the image of Lincoln especially resonant during the 1960s, and in 2009 the centennial of the Lincoln cent was honored with 4 different reverse designs depicting stages of Lincoln's life: his birth and early childhood in Kentucky, his formative years in Indiana, his professional life in Illinois, and his presidency in Washington, D.C., a bicentennial-style celebration that commemorated not only the man but the lasting influence of the coin itself. And after 2009 the Mint introduced the Union Shield reverse in 2010, designed by Lindell-Base and sculpted by United States Mint chief engraver, representing Lincoln's preservation of the Union with a shield motif and a banner reading 1 cent, giving the modern cent a bold graphical identity and reaffirming the coin's role as a symbol of national unity in an era of rapid social and technological change. And along with design changes came changing mint policies and product strategies such as the expanded use of proof and mint sets marketed to collectors, the periodic release of special anniversary sets in copper or bronze finishes, and the distribution of certain proof or satin finish sets that created micro-scarcity when collectors bought and shelved them rather than letting them circulate, thereby shaping long-term survivorship and market values. When it comes to the highest values achieved, the Lincoln penny market has seen jaw-dropping auction results driven by the interplay of rarity, grade, provenance, and dramatic story. Bronze 1943 cents struck in error, ultra-high grade 1909 SVDB examples, certain proof and pattern pieces, and spectacularly preserved pre-1910 mint state cents have sold for huge figures at major auctions, and the collector world remembers headline sales where certain Lincoln pennies traded hands for sums that dwarf their face value and even rival classic rarities from other series, underscoring the fact that the smallest coin can carry the greatest historical and financial weight, and why collectors still scour coin jars, bankrolls, family hoards, and estate collections hoping to find that one overlooked piece whose provenance and condition will make it a star. Because every cent has a story, and every story has the potential to become legend, and for creators and narrators like you, this is gold. The perfect blend of human drama, historical sweep, and the tactile thrill of discovery. So as we close part one of this cinematic exploration of the Lincoln penny, remember that we have only just begun to examine the deep technicalities of die varieties, the unbelievable era coins that make headlines, the market psychology driving registry set competition, and the collector tips for spotting high-value pieces that we'll dive into in Part 2, where we will examine in intense detail the top key dates, exact die characteristics, photographic comparison tips, grading benchmarks, the most famous era coins and their auction records, and practical roll-searching strategies to help everyday viewers spot potential treasures in real time, all while continuing the single-paragraph narration style you requested so the voiceover remains uninterrupted, cinematic, and immersive. As we dive deeper into the world of the Lincoln penny, moving beyond its historical roots into the realm of true collector obsession, where rarities, errors, and shocking discoveries transform an ordinary 1-cent coin into a legendary artifact worth thousands or even millions, and this story becomes even more breathtaking when you explore the strange accidents, mechanical failures, mint anomalies, and transitional mistakes that created some of the most valuable cents ever found in circulation. Because the Lincoln Cent series is not only the longest-running design in American history, but also the richest playground for era hunters and variety specialists, and to understand why certain pennies achieve mythical status, you must imagine the minting process at full speed. Coils of metal fed into massive stamping presses, dies slamming into planchets at incredible force, workers managing dozens of machines. And in all this mechanical chaos, a tiny misalignment, a wrong metal blank, a damaged die, or a hubbing error can create a once-in-a-lifetime coin. So we begin with the most famous Lincoln error of all time, the 1955 double die obverse, a coin born from a hubbing shift so dramatic that the date, liberty, and I in God we trust appear boldly doubled, as if the text is echoing off the coin, and this happened because during hubbing, the process of pressing the design into a steel die, the die shifted slightly between impressions, creating two overlapping images that were then used to strike thousands of coins, and once those coins left the mint they entered circulation where everyday Americans discovered them in pocket change, newspapers wrote about them, and collectors scrambled to find them, making the 1955 DDO one of the most iconic U.S. coins of all time, and its value soars in high grades because collectors consider it a masterpiece of minting chaos, while even worn examples remain highly valuable, and another shocking example is the 1969 S double die, far rarer than the 1955, with dramatic doubling so intense that the entire obverse appears shadowed, and at first the Secret Service mistakenly believed these coins were counterfeits before realizing they were genuine mint errors, leading to enormous collector excitement and high auction values. And then comes the 1972 double die, with powerful spread on the lettering. And while there are many lesser double dies for 1972, true collectors hunt the strongest variety, searching for crisp separation in the letters that reveal a hubbing misalignment, and this passion for doubling extends to other famous dates like the 1983 double die reverse where 1 cent and the memorial line show doubling, along with the 1995 double die obverse which caused nationwide attention when newspapers and television urged people to search pocket change, although this variety is far less dramatic, yet still collectible. But doubling isn't the only pathway to value because transitional errors represent another breathtaking chapter in Lincoln penny history, particularly the 1943 bronze cents and 1944 steel cents, both born from leftover planchets accidentally struck during composition changes. Because when the mint changed from bronze to steel in 1943, some leftover bronze blanks from 1942 were mistakenly fed into presses, creating the legendary 1943 bronze cent worth a fortune, and the reverse happened in 1944 when steel blanks were mistakenly struck, producing the rare 1944 steel cent that appears shiny silver instead of copper, both coins now ranking among the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered and selling for astronomical sums. And transitional mistakes occurred again during the 1982 composition change which produced both copper and zinc versions, including the famous 1982 D small date copper cent, a coin that may be the holy grail of modern Lincoln cents because only 1 or 2 genuine examples are known and authentication requires full testing due to widespread counterfeits, making the discovery of an authentic 1982 D small date copper cent one of the most thrilling possibilities for any collector hunting through rolls. And then we come to the mechanical anomalies. Off-center strikes where the die hits the planchet incorrectly, leaving part of the design missing, broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin expands in size, clipped planchets where the blank is punched incorrectly and a crescent shape is missing, wrong planchet errors where a Lincoln cent design is accidentally struck on a dime blank or foreign coin metal, and the spectacular dies that crack, chip, or break over time, creating raised metal bumps or cuds that collectors adore, and each of these anomalies paints a picture of the mint's internal struggles, broken machinery, rushed output, and human oversight. And the Lincoln Penny series has more collectible errors than almost any other series because of its enormous production volume, giving collectors endless opportunities to discover something extraordinary. And then we move into the world of key dates, those precious years where tiny mintages or production oddities created scarcity that lasts forever, led by the legendary 1909 SVDB with only 484,000 minted, the 1914 D from Denver with notoriously low survival in high grade, the 1922 No D which happened when Denver dies were over-polished making the mint mark disappear, the 1931 S which had low production during the Great Depression, and other semi-key dates like the early San Francisco issues of the 1910s which often suffer from weak strikes and are rare in crisp red condition, and collectors obsessively hunt mint state examples of these early coins because nearly all circulated heavily during their time, making high-grade survivors extremely rare. And in the world of grading, the difference between MS-64 and MS-65 can be thousands of dollars because Lincoln cents show every tiny flaw, spots, carbon marks, tiny scratches, abrasions, and strike softness. So collectors chase full red examples that survived decades without toning, and registry set competition pushes elite collectors to pay unbelievable premiums for the highest graded examples certified by PCGS or NGC, and when these coins cross the auction block they create headlines, because the Lincoln cent market is one of the strongest collector markets on earth, with millions of hobbyists participating from beginners hunting change to advanced specialists owning museum-quality pieces, and this passion extends to die varieties such as repunched mint marks, RPMs, where the letter D or S was punched twice into the die creating visible doubling under magnification, or over mint marks where one mint mark was punched over another in older years when dies could be repurposed, and collectors spend decades cataloging every tiny die marker, die scratches, alignment differences, rim thickness, relief strength, turning the series into a vast universe of subvarieties, each with its own story, its own rarity, and its own devoted followers. And in this cinematic journey we continue deeper into the emotional side of coin collecting where families pass down jars of old pennies, where someone searching a bank box finds a rare error that changes their life, where a forgotten coin in a dresser drawer turns out to be a key date worth thousands, and where the Lincoln penny, the most common American coin, becomes the most surprising treasure carrier. And this is why your YouTube audience loves this series. You are not simply telling them about coins. You are inviting them into the thrill of discovery. And as we explore these rarities we also understand the deeper economic forces shaping them: wartime metal rationing, industrial demand for copper, mint facility expansions, die manufacturing changes, hubbing technology evolution, and modern laser-engraved dies which reduce some older types of errors but introduce new microscopic varieties that hardcore collectors chase. And through all of this, the Lincoln penny remains a perfect symbol of America's shifting history, from farm fields to factories, from war to peace, from copper to steel to zinc, from Brenner's wheat design to Gasparo's memorial to the modern shield. And now we stand ready to conclude this journey in Part 3 where we will explore the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold, the emotional impact of huge auction moments, the mind-blowing top-dollar sales including the highest price ever paid for a Lincoln penny in United States auction history which soared to over $1 million, ending finally with your traditional closing line. As we continue exploring the most extraordinary and high-value Lincoln pennies ever produced, the story becomes even more dramatic because these coins are not just pieces of metal but accidental survivors of history, tiny artifacts that pass through wars, recessions, economic reforms, mint changes, metal experiments, and billions of hands before becoming treasures worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars today. And as collectors study them with magnifying lenses and high-resolution scanners, every tiny detail, every doubled letter, every shifted date, every off-center strike, becomes a clue to the moment in time when something went wrong in the coining room and produced a rarity that would later shake the numismatic market. And one of the most fascinating examples is the 1972 double die obverse, a coin that looks almost ordinary until you tilt it under light and the doubling on the date and liberty jumps out powerfully, creating one of the boldest and most recognizable double dies in the series. And high-grade examples routinely bring in thousands of dollars because collectors love dramatic visible errors that require no imagination or guesswork. and this desire for bold, unmistakable mint mistakes is also why the 1983 double die reverse commands strong value, even though it comes from a year many people assume has no special coins. But the massive doubling on the 1-cent lettering made it instantly iconic, turning pocket change into treasure. For anyone lucky enough to find one in circulation during the 1980s, and the suspense of possibly discovering one of these coins is exactly why the Lincoln Cent series remains one of the most exciting fields for collectors, because unlike rare gold coins locked in museums, Lincoln-era pennies can still appear in pocket change today. And nothing fuels the imagination of collectors more than the idea that a multi-thousand-dollar coin could be hiding in a jar of coins at home, and this thrill also extends to off-metal errors such as the 1943 copper penny and the 1944 steel penny, two of the most dramatic mint accidents in American history created when leftover planchets from the previous year slipped into production presses, producing coins so rare and historically important that they have become legends in the hobby. Especially the 1943 copper cent, which has sold for more than $1 million and stands as one of the single most valuable mistakes the U.S. Mint has ever made, and its counterpart, the 1944 steel cent, is equally thrilling because it represents the reverse accident. Steel planchets meant for wartime 1943 production being accidentally struck with 1,944 dies, leading to coins so scarce that only a tiny handful survive today, each one worth tens of thousands even in low grade, and as collectors chase these rarities, they soon discover that even modern-year Lincoln pennies contain hidden treasures, such as the 1992 close AM variety where the spacing between the A and M on the reverse is so tight that it resembles a proof strike, and this extremely small design detail transforms an otherwise common coin into one worth thousands of dollars, and a similar pattern appears in the 1998, 1999, and 2000 wide AM varieties where the mint mistakenly used a proof reverse die on circulation coins, giving collectors another series of subtle but valuable varieties. And this constant interplay between small design variations and huge market value is why the Lincoln Cent remains the king of error and variety collecting. And when you add dramatic mistakes like the 1995 double die obverse, which caused a massive collector frenzy during the mid-1990s, or major striking errors such as broad strikes, off-center strikes, bonded pairs, double strikes, and missing clad layer cents, the series becomes even more unpredictable and thrilling. Because each error captures a unique moment of mint malfunction frozen forever in metal, a permanent record of something that wasn't supposed to happen, and yet these coins slipped out into the world, traveled through countless hands, survived decades of circulation, and eventually surfaced as high-value collectibles that inspire new generations of collectors. And all of these rare Lincoln Cents, from million-dollar wartime errors to subtle design varieties found only by sharp-eyed experts, tell a story not only of the minting process but of America itself, a century of changing technology, shifting priorities, and evolving designs. And through every year, every strike, and every unexpected mint accident, the Lincoln Cent remains one of the most important, beloved, and valuable coin series ever produced, continuing to create new legends even today as collectors search rolls, bags, and pocket change for the next big discovery. And with every auction record broken and every new variety confirmed by grading services, the excitement surrounding Lincoln pennies grows stronger, reminding us that even the smallest coin in circulation can carry incredible history, breathtaking rarity, and life-changing value. And that is exactly why collectors around the world remain deeply fascinated by this iconic coin series and continue to hunt for these treasures that have turned ordinary cents into extraordinary pieces of American heritage. And as we reach the conclusion of this journey through the rarest, most valuable, and most thrilling Lincoln penny discoveries ever made, it becomes clear that the story of this tiny coin is far from over, because new finds continue to emerge, new errors continue to surface, and the passion of collectors continues to grow stronger year after year, making the Lincoln Cent not just a coin but a universe of history, mystery, and endless possibility. And with that, we wrap up this powerful exploration into the rarest and most valuable Lincoln penny treasures ever discovered. A journey filled with history, accidents, design changes, and staggering auction records that continue to define the legacy of America's most iconic small coin. And as always, thanks for watching.